In this video, we're going to be taking a look at the Imperial Officer, Dark Times, based upon his appearance from the Andor series. This is an action figure I've kind of wanted for a while. There was two of them sitting at my local Walmart for the longest time, and I think the prices were $24.99, and then I thought, well, yes, I want him, but I don't really want to spend $24.99 for this guy because there's just not a whole lot of newness about him. So I'll hold out for a sale. This was probably about 8 or 9 months ago now at this point, and then recently I happened to be traveling to Walmart, and then there was only one left on the shelf, and up to this point he has not gone on sale or clearance or anything like that. So I was like, okay, I'll finally go ahead and pay full price for him. But despite that, I'm glad I got him. Personally, I think he's a great action figure. I know he's not everyone's favorite, and a lot of people will find him kind of boring. He's just reutilizing a lot of the previous Imperial Officer parts, and the only really new feature about him is the trench coat he's wearing. And then, of course, he has a new head sculpt as well. But still, I'm a big fan of Imperial Officers, especially generic officers. I really wish we would get a lot more in the line. And I would really like to see this guy in the TVC line, actually. I think he'd be great in the Troop Builder packs. Even as an individual release, I think he would sell very well in TVC. A lot more of the adult, older collectors would probably be big fans of this guy. Maybe not so much in the Black series. It seems like he's kind of peg warmed, and getting on prices or getting on eBay and looking at the prices there, he's not really much more above retail. In fact, sometimes even less. The other Imperial Officer that came out at the same time, I've seen go for $13 even. That one was not at my local Walmart. Perhaps I'll get that one at some point. It's not a high priority though. I much prefer to get this guy. So, like I said, he's from the Andor series. I have not seen the Andor series, but I have seen this particular scene that he's featured in, and I think it's a flashback scene where he's leading a column of Phase 2 clones. And then I think there's some civilians that throw some rocks at him, and then he basically orders everyone into a firing line, or the clones that is. And then, of course, they eliminate the civilians. Not sure if that's the only scene he's in, or if he shows up in anything else. I don't think he's a named character. Maybe at some point I'll sit down and watch Andor. Most of the Star Wars series really hasn't been overwhelmingly interesting enough to me to really want to sit down and watch the series. But Andor I have heard lots of great things about, so perhaps someday I'll sit down and watch that. And as far as action figures are concerned from Andor, most of them have been on the boring side. I think a lot of the characters they've done actually would fit better in the TVC line, like Mon Mothma, this guy, even the other Imperial Officer. I think TVC collectors would be more interested in those, but Black Series got them. Oh well. But anyways, let's just go ahead and take a look at the packaging for this guy. So he does have the windowed package here. And this is still in that transition time period where I don't think a lot of us were too sure as to exactly how these action figures were going to turn out, if they were going to be windowless or not windowless. As you can see, Star Wars Andor there, Imperial Officer Dark Times, which interesting title for this time period. You can kind of see the image of the guy there. Pretty standard description there. Another image of him, and he's figure number 2. The only other Andor figure I really have is the Mon Mothma, who is reviewed on the channel if you want to check her out. That's pretty much it for the package. And we'll just go ahead and take a closer look at this guy. So it's pretty evident that they were going for a NSDAP look for this guy, which is the acronym basically for the Third Reich during World War II. You can definitely see the influence in his outfit between the all black. The trench coat style is, I mean, it's not exactly on point, but you can definitely see the influence there. And that's pretty much all he is just all black. He does have the blue there on his rank badge. And of course the silver on his cap. So he's obviously probably a lower ranking officer. I would have to go back and review exactly what the rank badges mean. Obviously, I know if it has yellow on it, that's like Grand Admiral. And then, of course, if it's like all blue and all red, that would be probably your equivalent of like your captain or your colonel. So the cap is not removable, which is strange. Hasbro doesn't often do that with the Imperial officers. Most of the time, the caps are removable. At least I don't think it's removable. I'm not able to pry that off. It's interesting they did that. Most of the time, caps are removable. If you did manage to pry it off, I'm sure you could because it's probably a separate piece that's just glued down. It would probably expose the shape of his head, but obviously it wouldn't be painted. So maybe if you're big into customizing, you could pry that off and then paint his head underneath. And his face looks alright. I think the eyes could be a little bit more defined, but it's pretty good. And he does have the mustache there. Very neutral expression. Not a whole lot to say about it. And then, like I said, probably the big draw to this guy is his trench coat here. This is the same trench coat that we see Director Krennic wear in Rogue One at the beginning there, which is kind of unfortunate that the TVC figure did not include that. I think that would have been a nice accessory. And I think this is the first Black Series action figure to feature this trench coat. And it looks really nice. One thing though, unfortunately, it's glued in the back, and I think it's glued along here, so it's permanently attached to him unless you take like an X-Acto knife or something and manage to cut that off. Which, if you're into customizing, that is certainly an option for you. But you could take this off then if you cut that, and then you would have to pop his head off and then just take it off. And then, of course, you would have to rub out that glue residue. So his trench coat, completely plastic. It does have some of the stitching detail there. And then it just kind of disappears, goes into the fabric. It does have a lot of folds in this. And it's not too hindering of him. You can pretty much get his arms posed in just about every position you're going to want him in anyway. So it's not too bad. He does have his belt there. Of course, black robes. He does have the cylinders on the right side there. His rank badge does not appear to be underneath the trench coat here, which is unfortunate. We know that even with the coat on, they would at least have the rank badge probably underneath, and then just have this one as an outer one. That belt there does look kind of unique. I don't know if that's entirely new, but none of the officers I have really have a belt with this many pouches or anything like that on it. And same with his the skirt here has a little bit different detailing. It's almost like he's wearing an extra layer that goes over his torso there. Maybe it's supposed to be like some type of body armor. He does have the cut on the sides here to give him that extra range in his legs. And as far as I can tell, the legs are just a reuse of previous officers in the past. He does have the pins in the legs there. All black boots. Looks pretty good. So in terms of his articulation, he does have a ball joint at the head there. Pretty good range of motion. Hinged shoulders and elbows, hinged wrists, and joint the torso. And hinged hips, and then swivel cut at the thigh, and then the double hinge at the knees, and then rocker ankles. And for weapons and accessories, very light. It just has the standard stormtrooper pistol, basically, or at least this is what we see often with stormtroopers. And as you can see, it fits well in his hand, and it's kind of a dark gray. Not a whole lot to say about this. We've seen this before. But probably how I had him displayed at the beginning of the video like this is probably how he's going to be most of the time. Not so much an action-oriented character. He looks better as a kind of like a background character, I suppose. Or if you have a column of Phase 2 clones, or even Stormtroopers, which I'll bring out some Stormtroopers here in a minute, that he would look really good beside them. I will do a comparison with another officer here. That is with Grand Moff Tarkin. And as you can see, they kind of reutilize a lot of the same parts. He does have a different belt here, I think, other than that, and then the extra layer on top of his tunic there, and of course the trench coat. Everything else is just about the same. Looks about the same legs. The skirt here is probably about the same thing, and I'm sure the tunic itself is. And then we'll bring out some stormtroopers here. These are the ones that came with the Galen Merrick. I don't have any of the plain white Phase 2 clones, so can't reenact that scene. Maybe at some point I'll go ahead and get a few. But for now, we got stormtroopers, and he looks really good side by side with them. Very happy how that turned out. But yeah, that's pretty much all I can tell you about this Imperial officer. So would I recommend him for your collection? If you don't have them already, I would say yes. I would recommend him, especially if you're interested in officers. I mean, he's exactly what he is. I mean, there's no special features about him or anything of that nature. If you either want them or you don't. Personally, I'm a big fan of Imperial officers, so I will always like to have more. And like I said, I think he would be a perfect candidate to include in the TWC line. I think a lot of collectors would really like that. Even if you had to throw him in a troop builder pack, that would be very nice. And it'd be nice to get the trench coat in a 3 3/4 inch scale. I think a lot of collectors would be very happy about that as well. I wouldn't be surprised if some customizers are 3D printing some or hand making some that will be selling here soon if they're not already. But it would be nice to see Hasbro's take on it. But overall, he's a nice action figure. I'm glad I have him in my collection. I tried to wait for him to go on clearance, but he never did. And I think a lot of people are finding out the same thing. For whatever reason, a lot of these Andor figures don't seem to be going on sale or clearance. It's hit or miss with that. Some action figures, no sooner than they go out, they're on clearance, and then other times they're not. But still, even if you have to pay full price for this, I think it's an alright deal. I paid $24.99, I think, at Walmart for this, so not too bad. And here in the US, he is Walmart exclusive, and overseas, he's probably Canada's probably like Toys R Us or EB Games, and maybe the UK is like Sainsbury or something like that. I'm not sure. Either way, he is an exclusive action figure. But overall, very solid. Happy to have him in the collection. And I would recommend you track him down if you don't have him already. But anyways, that concludes this review. I hope you enjoyed it. Stay tuned for plenty more reviews in the future. There will always be more to come. If you haven't already, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. I always appreciate all your support. And check out the links in the description if you haven't done so already. As always, thanks for watching.